The fragile calm of Too Deep's rural life fractured one ordinary afternoon. What began as a day of chores and quiet domestic routine was torn open by the sudden arrival of a figure from the past, a grandmother whose absence had once been final, but whose return now threatened to upend everything. For CEO James, already fighting to keep his crumbling company alive, the stakes had never been higher. Could he protect the two people who had become his true home, or would forces beyond his control tear them away? And for Too Deep, who had been a constant shield for the little girl, the thought of losing Nhi to a grandmother's sudden claim felt unbearable. What followed was not just a dispute over guardianship, it was a reckoning with the very meaning of family. A fragile afternoon. The countryside lay drowsy under the golden glow of late afternoon. Sunlight filtered through bamboo fencing, casting playful shadows across the yard where Nhi's laughter had so often rung out like music. But on this day, the air was heavy, charged with a quiet dread. At the wooden gate, Too Deep brushed her fingers over the cool shells of the last chicken eggs she had gathered. Nhi's small hand rested in hers, warm but trembling. "Deep," the little girl whispered, her voice quivering with doubt, "why hasn't Uncle James come today? Does he not love us anymore?" Deep forced a smile, though her heart constricted. "No, sweetheart. He loves you very much. He's just very busy right now," but she could not ignore the hollow ache in her chest. Hours had passed with no word from James. Every call she made met only with voicemail, each mechanical beep widening the silence between them. Just as she steadied herself to lead Nhi toward the market, two figures appeared at the edge of the dusty path. An older woman in a faded blue scarf walked with sharp, measured steps, her eyes calculating and cold. Behind her loomed a silent man whose presence radiated quiet menace. The woman halted a few paces away. Her gaze locked on Nhi. "So," she said, her voice low but cutting, "this is where you've been hiding her." "My granddaughter. My blood." Deep's knees weakened. Months ago, this very grandmother had refused to take responsibility for the child, insisting her own life was too complicated. Now here she stood, like a storm arriving without warning. "You left her," Deep countered, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "When we begged you to take her in, you turned your back. And now you come to claim her?" The grandmother's lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. "Circumstances change, Deep. I have the means now. I've even arranged incentives." She nodded toward the silent man, whose expression confirmed her veiled threat. "This child belongs with her family. If you truly care for her, you'll step aside." Nhi clung to Deep's skirt, wide-eyed, her small body sensing the gravity of the moment. The sounds of the distant marketplace seemed to vanish, leaving only the three of them standing in the shrinking world of choice and consequence. A father in the distance. Miles away, James sat slumped in a sterile hotel room in Hanoi. His phone lay dark in his palm, and exhaustion etched itself into every line of his face. His empire was unraveling. Deals collapsed one by one, competitors circled like vultures, and John's betrayal had left his business gasping for survival. And yet, amid this chaos, one thought burned brighter than any boardroom war: I can lose my fortune. But not Deep. And not Nhi. A claim of blood. Back at the countryside gate, the grandmother's voice shifted, less sharp, but no less dangerous. Deep, be reasonable. I can give Nhi a future you cannot. James is too busy chasing his empire to protect either of you. Do you want to watch her suffer when his world collapses? Tears pricked Deep's eyes. She remembered James's warmth, the way he bent low to teach Nhi simple games, the promises whispered in the quiet of night that he would never let them go. She also remembered the silence, the unanswered calls, the fear of abandonment. But Nhi's tiny fingers tightened around hers, anchoring her in that moment. No, Deep whispered, her voice finding strength. Nhi is not a bargaining chip. She is not a prize to be won. She is loved, and she will stay with the people who have been here for her. For a flicker of a second, surprise, and perhaps even guilt, crossed the grandmother's face. But it vanished quickly. We'll see, she said coldly, before retreating down the path. Deep dropped to her knees, embracing Nhi as the evening sky deepened into violet. She knew storms were coming, storms love alone might not withstand. The call that changed everything. That night, Deep washed dishes under the glow of an oil lamp while Nhi slept on a bamboo mat. The grandmother's words replayed like a broken record in her mind, each accusation impossible to silence. Her phone buzzed, startling her. She answered quickly. Deep. James's voice was rough with fatigue, yet even through the static, it steadied her heart. James, she whispered, careful not to wake Nhi. Where are you? I'm in Hanoi. The deal fell apart. John's people pulled funding again. I've been in meetings since dawn. But tell me, what happened? Deep hesitated, then confessed. Nhi's grandmother came. She wants to take her away. She even offered money to make it happen. The line fell silent, heavy and dangerous. Then James spoke, his tone like steel. She thinks she can buy her way into Nhi's life? Not while I'm breathing. She's her blood, James, Deep whispered. Legally, this could be hard. And you're not here. I will be, he vowed, his voice sharp with resolve. First train tomorrow. I don't care what it costs or who I have to face. Deep wanted to believe him. But memories of unanswered calls lingered. She stared at their humble home, its chipped paint and sagging doorframe, and wondered if love alone could hold their fragile world together. A morning of reckoning. Dawn broke with the crow of a rooster, and for a brief moment, peace returned. Nhi giggled as she skipped stones across the stream, her laughter echoing in the valley. Then a shadow fell. The grandmother had returned, this time in a pressed blouse, official papers in hand. I told you, she said coolly. This isn't over. I've spoken to people. I can make this official. Deep's pulse raced, but she stood tall. Nhi isn't a trophy. You abandoned her when she needed you most. The grandmother's gaze softened for just a breath, regret flashing in her eyes, before hardening again. Maybe I was wrong before. But I won't be wrong again. The tense silence cracked with the crunch of tires. A sleek black car pulled up. James stepped out, his suit rumpled, eyes shadowed by sleepless nights. Yet his presence was unshakable, protective, fierce. He strode forward, scooping Nhi into his arms. Hey, sweetheart, he whispered. I'm here now. Then he turned to face the grandmother, his voice calm but edged with warning. You want to talk about Nhi's future? Fine, but you don't threaten Deep. And you don't frighten a child. Not ever. The grandmother narrowed her eyes. And who are you to decide? You're not even family. James straightened, holding Nhi close. Maybe not by blood, but I'm the one who shows up. I'm the one she runs to when she's scared. Family is earned. The air crackled with tension, heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. Deep stepped beside James, her hand brushing his arm, a quiet declaration of unity. The grandmother's lips pressed into a thin line. We'll see what the law says. With that, she turned and disappeared into the mist. James exhaled, some of the tension easing. He turned to Deep, his voice softer now. She's not taking her. I don't care what I have to risk. Deep met his gaze and, for the first time in days, allowed herself a fragile smile. But deep down, she knew, the hardest fight was only just beginning. Lessons in love and family. This confrontation was more than a family dispute. It was a test of loyalty, resilience, and truth. Blood is not enough. The grandmother's return proved that family cannot be defined by lineage alone. It is measured in presence, sacrifice, and love. Love requires action. James's choice to return, even amid personal ruin, showed that promises mean nothing without action. Children see everything. Nhi's clinging embrace was proof that children notice absence, broken promises, and fear, but they also feel security when love is steadfast. Money cannot repair neglect. The grandmother's attempt to buy back her role highlighted a hard truth: relationships cannot be purchased. They must be lived. Courage is love in action. Diep's decision to stand firm, even when threatened by legal consequences, showed that real care means protecting the vulnerable at all costs. In the end, their story reminds us that family is not built by blood alone but by loyalty, sacrifice, and the choice to stay, even when storms rage.